Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming out and sharing your time with us. My name is Vet, and I'm a visual artist. I consider myself a community artist. Back in 2005, a friend of mine called and said, hey, you know what, I got some frames, and I understand you do recycling. Do you want some? And I'm like, sure. But you know, there's art math, and then there's real math. She brought over 100 frames. And after I got out of shock, I said, well, I need to call people. So I started calling people and said, you know, I've got some frames, you want some free ones? Then I realized, wait a minute, I've got some other stuff they can use too. So I started giving stuff away. But I started getting stuff, because what I found, there are like-minded people. We're like this close to hoarding, but not quite. I realized that I had 3 storages full of supplies. And I wanted to find a better way to recycle, because I realized I wasn't really recycling. I was just basking in the glory of my universe. And so I had to proactively start giving things away. And what I found, there's like-minded people. There's other people, and you know who you are, you're this close to hoarding. So by having a more organized way to give things away, you actually get more. You get more emotionally, because you are tied to a community of people who are givers, whether they're in the arts or they're not in the arts. They're just people and organizations that have too much stuff and they need to give it to someone else. So that's really what Art Cycle is all about. Not only do I give away art supplies, but I also teach. Well, once you get the stuff, what do you do with it? Well, you have to provide a safe place, a common place where people can come and learn how to use all that stuff. But the real benefit is that you share your stories. That little piece of lint that you have been saving for years and years, there's a story behind it. So you're not only sharing your physicalness, you're showing your emotional part of how you connected, how that object had a history, and now it's making a new history. So by continuing to do that, you not only educate people, you bring in new people who never thought that they were artists and have a chance to be creative. And I think that by doing that, we all benefit. We save the planet one more time from something going into the landfill. Oh yeah, and you're recycling. Now, as you can see here, shares of your story is the most important thing. And that's what bonds us as a community. So my suggestion is get rid of that piece of lint.
Hi, hello, my name is Fred Villanueva. Thank you for being here. My name is Fred Villanueva. I'm an artist and half of the founder of Ash Studios over off of Ash Lane, close to Fair Park. We're situated between traditionally Latino East Dallas and traditionally Black South Dallas. So we've been doing a lot of different sort of art experiments. I do want to underscore that I am an artist, and so I've actually, in the past 7 years, have been going out into the community and also have been doing a lot of learning from my community, but also giving back to my community. And so, really, I think that working alongside, Ignite Arts and other great artists such as Daryl Radcliffe and several hundred other artists has kind of brought me back into the realm of being a cultural worker. I want to read some stuff here. Usually starting with an ambitious vision inspired by other artists, an investor artist seeks to fulfill a need for himself and others, ultimately adopting groupthink where the most impact can take place, one individual at a time. This groupthink requires trust that people can be themselves regardless of dominant social perceptions. So basically, that kind of means that what we've been doing is taking a lot of art supplies off-site, but we also went through a period where we kind of opened up the studio in a year of radical openness and brought the community into our art space and into our yard and stuff like that to kind of rediscover really what talent and creativity and what other people who are not necessarily fine artists think of as an artist. So we learned a lot from that, and then we sort of flipped the script. We started going out into the community and taking our brand of creativity out. And so, so that's kind of the project that we're continuing to do today. We've been going out to different rec centers. We've been going out to Jubilee Park. We've been going out to Fair Park, all sorts of environments to really kind of share our creativity and continue to inspire and to get inspired. So this sort of cultural exchange is ongoing. So I also want to read, let's see here, artists' work that shows a connection to the community instead of elitist disconnection is inspiring. Approachable accessibility to art is key for cultural ecosystems, where constant renewal over generations must be established for real longevity. So, thank you.
Hi. Welcome to Break Bread, Break Borders. So, Break Bread, Break Borders is a social enterprise set up economically, empowering refugee women from war-torn countries. We, through the powerful storytelling of food and culture, break bread with the communities and break down borders at the same time. I grew up in Taipei, Taiwan, raised by refugees. I came to the States actually when I was 13. 16 franchises of Chinese restaurants and the Southwest later. My parents actually purchased a franchise here in Dallas, Texas. My mom, who was the chef, used to hire immigrants and refugees and come to work in our kitchen, and she would train them with job skills and send them on to bigger and better opportunities. So I thought, what better way to honor her legacy than to continue her lifelong work? That's how Break Bread, Break Borders was born. So Break Bread, Break Borders. My name is Jinya Huang, and I'm the founder of Break Bread, Break Borders. So we're set up as a social practice artist. I founded BBBB to invest in our immigrant and refugee community. Through the job creation opportunities, we have built bridges in more ways than one. You see, like our community cooks don't just drop off the food. They actually do storytelling at the events. So they share who they were, what it was like traveling as refugees abroad, coming here to America, and then what it's like to cook with Break Bread, Break Borders. So through this immersive culinary experience, not only are the cooks' lives transformed, so are the diners. We have been in spaces where we have found that on an average, actually, it takes refugees about 7 years to acclimate to local economy. But having access to living wages, Break Bread, Break Borders has been able to accomplish that in 2 years. And just for example, it's been amazing to see cooks like Rania that she has used to actually lose sleep to cook for 8 people, but now she has the confidence to cook for hundreds with the training from our organization. And with this multiplier effect, and we have been able to empower 20 women like Rania to economic independence and to impact 80 family members, to serve over 9,000 people and spread our messages to over 60,000 people wide. And so as you can see, this is not about me. This is about us and our sisterhood. Thank you so much, the city, Ignite, SMU, CultureBank, for this opportunity. Thank you so much for your love and support.
So I'm a mom, a poet, and a cultural worker.
I'm also the founder of Semillitas Literary Initiative, and we plant the seeds that grow lifelong readers. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a boots to the ground, get your hands dirty, and stay in the background sort of person. So this is totally out of my comfort zone. But I'm here because I know that this is how change happens, like real meaningful change. And this project was born because I wanted my children to grow into their purpose. I realized early on that that meant creating a world where they could explore anything and everything, that their childhood needed to be filled with explosions of colors, sounds, tastes, and experiences. And I learned just as quickly, unfortunately, that in my community, the place that we call home, a long history of neglect and indifference by city policies and a lack of genuine community engagement and communication with organizations left me traveling across town and to other cities to fulfill those obligations. So Semillitas was born out of a mother's need to give her children and the children who live around her a chance to do more than just exist. It's about creating opportunities for children to flourish. This project began as a story time for toddlers at a community center, and it's grown to incorporate different components because we understand growing a lifelong love of reading requires more than just teaching the mechanics of letters and sounds. So we strive to create positive connections by setting up reading nooks with free books in community-owned businesses, hosting kid-led book clubs using a model we created that moves away from a curated book list, through organizing story times and cultural workshops that allow families to experience different modalities for the telling of stories. And thanks to CultureBank funding, we were able to set up a website last year and are rolling out a toolkit and podcast later this year. So basically, we give community the power to have some say over what they read, to allow them the opportunity to experience storytelling through the use of oral stories, music, and the visual arts, and to give them access to characters that look like them in a space that's safe and comfortable. And we all know that the barriers that our communities deal with are interconnected. The issues lean onto each other and create a series of hurdles that feel too great to overcome, so the solutions must be built in a similar way. They need to be a bridge to help people over those hurdles. So when we come into a community, we start by collaborating with existing community spaces, both brick and mortar and pop-ups. We do this because we want to know that we want those spaces to know that we see them as valuable stakeholders and that we're just there to build on the economic and cultural infrastructure that's already there. And doing this also helps to mitigate issues that some of our families deal with, like transportation and time constraints, that keep a lot of families from participating in activities in the arts sometimes. Once we do this, then we work on implementing the experiential parts of our project, which on a short-term basis helps families gain access to books so they can start libraries in their home. And on a long-term basis, begins to build the idea that reading is something fun, that it can be done alone or with family and in community. And this plants the seed for community engagement and a lifelong love of words and everything that comes with them.
Greetings, how y'all doing? I just want to say that I'm here standing on the shoulders of my ancestors whose innovation and creativity allowed them to survive and thrive through all types of injustice and redlining and all types of things to even be on the land that we're very much standing on right now, Deep Ellum. So I come on their shoulders. My name is Tisha Creer, and I have a delicious food and juice venture food business called Recipe Oak Cliff. Recipe is a project born from the work of Susu Cultural Business Incubator, which is dedicated to stimulating the local creative and cultural economy with the goal of launching healthy, locally owned business hubs in communities of color in the face of gentrification and displacement. Susu conducted 2 years of business development and cooperative economics workshops and pop-up markets and underused spaces in Oak Cliff Cliff and South Dallas. And Susu Markets focused on local businesses in health and wellness, cultural retail, education and literacy, and performing and visual arts. Our thought is that the human capital Our thought is that the human capital in communities of color are our greatest asset, and we value investing in this proven potential. Communities of color have historically produced content that others profit from. Our goal is to do our little part in shifting that dynamic to reaping the benefits, the return on investment from our creativity, opposed to that creative capital being exploited or co-opted. Next to human resources, the resource of space is so valuable in how it is utilized for humans to gather. Recipe Oak Cliff was established in 2017 after the purchase of 1831 South Ewing with a non-traditional loan from the Embry Family Foundation and the Real Estate Council of 1,000-square-foot retail space on Ewing, like I said, on Ewing Avenue. We have since served thousands of residents and visitors fresh juice and plant-based food. Recipe Oak Cliff educates visitors daily on the health benefits and cultural history of the natural ingredients offered of our plant-based menu. And of course, research has proven that connection between quality of food and quality of health in life is integral. We hold space for classes and workshops for food entrepreneurs to share the kitchen space, and a community board for local businesses to promote their services. Now that we have established the viability of the business on the block, several new businesses and property developers are moving in, a block that seemed of forgotten value and lacking city investment. This act of investment and activating a commercial property with a profit-bearing fresh food business proves the potential and viability of locally owned property development concepts. Through CultureBank, we have started food gatherings to strategize ways to collectively acquire and activate even more and additional neighborhood property, design its development, and save space for arts and culture workers to grow our neighborhoods and continue the work of activism and it's a continuation of work like places like the Pan-African Connection, the legacy and the preserve, the cultural space like places like Black Dallas Remembered and Clean South Dallas, and so the legacy of so many others who have done this work for many, many years, and the history of our city. So we believe we the people, we the developer. Recipe Oak Cliff. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sara Cardona. I'm the executive director of Teatro Dallas, and I'm very proud to carry on the legacy of my parents. Teatro Dallas was founded by my mother, Cora Cardona, and my father, Jeff Hurst. When Cora first arrived in Dallas 35 years ago, she came from Mexico City as an actress, trained and ready to do theater, and found that there were no opportunities for her to work on the stages of Dallas. That was in part for two reasons. One, because in those days there were prejudices and discrimination against Mexicans, basically in terms of both language, she had an accent, and also because there were no stories being told in which she would have a place. So these two things informed her work, and in many ways still informs what Teatro Dallas has done. And unlike other theaters, she did not have the luxury of just simply producing plays, but really became an investor in the community here by telling the stories that had not been told, by reaching in and listening and developing new plays, educating Dallas audiences about the rich legacy of the Latino language, of Spanish, Portuguese, indigenous languages, Ladino, the many intersectional ways in which the Latinx community has thrived over the centuries, and also had, along the way, created job opportunities, so workforce training, training actors and many other people who have gone on to become cultural workers and transform the ecosystem of Dallas in terms of the arts. What you're seeing in the images is a new project that we started with the CultureBank initiative to take this idea of both stories and empowerment through narrative, and also embracing bilingualism sharing language and finding ways to help people who are new immigrants to Dallas who have language barriers come to feel pride about who they are and see that their language is actually a benefit, and also to benefit the Dallas workforce, because these are individuals who are not actors, who are lay people, people in the community who have sought out Teatro Dallas and are using theater methodologies. We have professionals teaching classes over 9 months on the weekends and using body and voice as a way to kind of create a safe space for people in the community who are construction workers, people who are working in the service industry. They would come on the weekends, take our classes, and basically felt very safe doing what would normally be like the purview of Toastmasters or something. So they, in turn, have gone back out and shared with us how this has transformed their ability to be confident in the workplace. We have a demand now for these classes where we had started out working with actors. Now we're working with new immigrants in our Dallas community to help them with language acquisition and with confidence building. So thank you all very much for allowing me to share the power of theater and the power of our voices and our bodies.
Good job, y'all.
Really nicely done, yeah. Want me to start?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Penelope Douglas of CultureBank, and you guys are amazing, of course. We agreed that we'd have a conversation among ourselves about a couple of things that we've been learning about together during the process of this cohort so far. One of the things that we've talked a lot about is the fact that often artists who are creating tremendous impact in their communities are grossly undervalued, and part of that may have to do with the fact that we're viewed as individuals or as enterprises that aren't rigorous about the way in which we provide evidence of our impact. We respectfully disagree. So one of the things that we thought we would try to converse a little bit about are just a few examples of ways in which you've all witnessed testimony, actual evidence of the change that you're working towards from your community. So we won't be able to show a lot of data or metrics other than some of the highlights you presented already, but perhaps just a few examples, very personal ones. And Ophelia, do you want to start? Do you have an example for us?
Sure. I was sharing earlier that one of the things that we do is give away books. And so we set up typically at the Latino Cultural Center. That's one of the sites where we go to every year. And there's a grandmother there, sweetest woman. But she looks for us whenever there's an event now. And she says that, she told me, she always takes books, and she takes books and books. And one day she said that she hoped she wasn't taking too many. And I was like, no, that's what they're here for. And she said that basically what she does is, because she's on a limited income, she doesn't have the ability to go to the bookstore or to buy gifts for her grandchildren. So she takes our books and she saves them for her grandchildren. And when birthdays come up or for holidays or when she feels the need to give them something special, she gives them the books that she's gotten from our reading nooks.
So it's a great example of an exchange of something very valuable, and it's really transcending our traditional notions of how we do that. And in return, obviously, this is a grandmother who's building a tremendous amount of well-being for an extended family. So thanks for that example. Anybody want to go next with an example? I know you all have them, so you want to go next, Fred?
Sure, I'll go next.
I think we can hear you. Just need to talk into the mic.
Oh, just talking to the mic.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Rap into the mic.
I
Okay.
got you, Fred.
Yeah, so I mentioned. Okay. Yeah. I mentioned that we go out into the communities. So one of the most incredible experiences I've had was going out to the Beckley Sainer Rec Center and doing a workshop painting with a bunch of kids who would rather be playing basketball but were actually painting with us on these huge banners. And then, of course, the Dallas police officer kind of joined in, and then out of the mouth of a Dallas police officer was like, I wish you would come and do this with the Dallas police. So that really seemed to set off a light bulb in I think, our minds. I think that there's really a need there. And maybe from the unlikeliest of places, that there's this need to really build understanding and empathy. And so I think that that's, for all the research that we do when we go out and do work, real professional artwork, important work, make these connections, that, we actually have the ability to make a massive cultural shift in understanding, one person
Beautiful
at a time.
example. Thank you. You want me to keep going? Yes, please. Okay, keep going.
Just
Oh, okay.
Yeah, talk right into it. Yeah.
I had the pleasure of meeting a young woman who had 5 children. She had one on her hip, one was at her side, and then had another older boy with her. And the other 2 were off with their dad doing some kind of outdoor camping thing. And she was actually getting a break from having all 5 of them with her. And so and they just happened to be at the library. This is at the Ardelia Library. And so she said, well, so how does this work? We have to pay for it? I said, no, everything is free. And she couldn't believe it. I said, no donations, you just come and get what you want. Well, the youngest of the 2, of the 3 that were there, she didn't have any problem. She got her little shopping bag and she just started throwing stuff in. She couldn't have been more than about 5. She didn't know these were art supplies. She just knew she just wanted it. Whatever it was free, and she had her little pink shopping bag, and she was just going to shop. Well, the boy was kind of shy at first because always thought, well, arts and crafts, he's probably made fun of because he used to do knitting and crocheting. And his mother said he was really good at that. But she did not have the money to get all the fancy yarns that he wanted at the store. So this is a perfect opportunity for her to allow him to shop at will. And because people were generous with me, I was able to pass that on to, unbeknownst to me, he might be the future, I don't know, knitter or designer or whatever. But again, it really changed my opinion too on, what people traditionally think of as boys and girls or gender specific when it really wasn't. It was something he really loved to do. So again, it made it accessible and it also made it affordable.
Thank you very much. Tisha, I know you've got a couple
Yeah, I got a couple
good ones.
Just real quick, one thing that I tell all the time is at the juice bar, we sell vegan food and fresh juice, and we tell a lot of stories that go with the food and juice because it's food has stories, right? And so one of the things that we make is the hibiscus tea, which is also known as Jamaica, which is also known as sorrel, which is it has all these names wherever it's used in the world. And our mailman comes in every day and gets his drink of hibiscus. He told us, we're in our 4th year now, he told us last year that the doctor reduced his blood pressure medication. And he said, I hadn't done one right thing except drink that hibiscus. And so that's, wow, for that to, be a daily part and be accessible to him, and that it actually transformed his health is a really beautiful thing. And one other thing I wanted to say is we have a small little community table where you can put your, people can put their flyers and business cards and things like that. And it's been so many cool connections that have been able to be made from just that, that one little shared space. One of my friends and mentors, Marvin Reese, is here, and I call him the bridge builder, but he saw a card there for these young people who have an Airbnb company, and he linked them to a young developer in the community. I don't know if he's in the room, Don Johnson, and they are connecting and did business just off of that little table of exchange, and it just speaks to the value of being able to have space for people to do what we naturally do. We can be healthy and positive if we don't have all those roadblocks in the way.
Thank you so much. Jinya, do you have a good example? I know you do, again.
Yes, yeah, of course. So thank you for this opportunity to share our stories. So at Break Borders, we hold many different catering events, and it could be, from 4 people to 40 people and 400. And at this one particular event, we serve a population from various places, from anywhere from Syria, Afghanistan, Burma, to the Congo, and so on and so forth. And in particular, this group of Syrian women did the cooking for a group over at Paquin College. And I still remember there were people very leery of coming up to eat Syrian food. They didn't know what it was going to be like. And we try to explain that, it's like really healthy Mediterranean food and with a lot of spices. And, and after they heard the stories from the women about just their life and sharing their, so openly their food and culture. And this gentleman, after eating lunch, came up to us and said, I didn't know what to expect. I was actually quite frightened at first, and he said, he had never met a refugee, let alone a Muslim before, and but the moment that he ate this chicken kepse, this one dish that had this amazing rice, he said, it brought me all the way back to my grandmother's dirty rice from New Orleans. And it's those food memories that are, and food is such a just amazing universal language. And as a form of arts and just sharing that with people, like it just was so powerful to hear that he was affected in such a deep way. And we were, really honored that he held space for us like that. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you very much. And you can just, if we had the time, we would all probably want to converse with you about some of the like ripple effects of that, and some of the ways in which translating fear to love and again cohesion and the true story of an immigrant community shared through food, all the things that you just alluded to. Sara.
So the other day, I was coming out of a meeting from the Latino Cultural Center, and it was on a Monday, so the center was actually closed. And as I was walking to my car, a woman drove up, and she said, "Is this Teatro Dallas?" And I said, "No, but I'm Teatro Dallas, I guess." So she said, "Can I talk to you?" And so I was dashing out, and I said, "Well, why don't you call me in a little bit?" And she did. I got back to my office, and she had already called, and she said, "Do you speak Spanish?" And I said, "Yes, of course." And so we started speaking in Spanish, and she told me that she had driven, when she had seen me in the parking lot, she had driven down from Carrollton, and that was the first time she had ever been downtown Dallas and had ever even been to the LCC, and it was kind of a Google accident because we present there a lot. But what she was looking for, she said, I heard that you have these classes for ESOL. I said, well, they're not really ESOL classes, they're theater classes, and I explained it to her. And she was so excited, and it was a word of mouth type of situation, and I knew right away, she told me she was from Colombia, and I knew right away that what had happened is that she felt comfortable coming to us, because there are ESOL classes in libraries and other places, but this process has been spreading where it's this sense of being with other people, and she had heard it from a friend who was also Colombiana. So it's this idea that what we're doing, I think, is feels safe to people, and right now, obviously, immigrants from Latin America do not always feel welcome, and they do not always feel safe, and they're very wary about where they go or what information they give. But the minute she was able to speak Spanish and she had heard from someone else, it was this big relief. And she's, going to start taking classes with us actually next month. So it's really exciting.
Again, just a terrific example. Thank you so much. Do you want me to make the segue and then you take over?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Clyde here in a minute, but one of the things that we also wanted to have a chance to converse about and then converse with you all about, we hope later, is all the opportunity for new forms of investment that all of you see right in front of you. So just being able to talk a little bit about the fact that artists and enterprises like these, not only for themselves but around them, see really important investment opportunities. So maybe speaking to that a little bit, and also perhaps a little bit to like sometimes it feels to me like we're just one step away. You know, it's not a very far distance we have to travel together to be able to create those investment opportunities. So if you can just speak a little bit to an example of that, that would be great. And I don't know who we should start with, so I'm just going to let you take over from here.
Okay. So, Jinya, maybe we could start with you in terms of something we've talked about. I mean, we wanted to embrace this format because this has really been our process for the first year. So we wanted to kind of lift the veil a little bit. You know, we made it clear the very first session that, you know, it wasn't sort of a traditional grant that had the expectation of like 3 deliverables or something, you know. And I remember distinctly some of your faces like, what, you mean we could just do what we really want to do? And we were like, yeah. And then so what's the outcome for success? And it's just that we learn together. And if you learn something, you share that with us, and we'll carry that forward. And that's really been the spirit of the pilot and the cohort thus far. So I want to, you know, just say that I have personally been energized by these sessions over the last 6 months with this particular crew, and I look forward to, you know, the work that's in front of us as we drill down a little bit more with each of you. But on the drilling down side of things, you know, part of what we've attempted to do with everyone is, hey, it isn't just about this one project. It's about all of your work and the longer-term impacts that it's having. Coming from this position of power of not just I need your money, you actually need me to be in partnership with you to achieve these greater goals. And we've been touching upon that a little bit through the afternoon. So what are some of the things, those areas of investment that you feel would not only catalyze your work, but given what you know to be true of your respective communities, would just be a catalyzer, right? So maybe we could start with you, Jinya.
Sure. So we had talked about how, you know, running a catering business, you know, is built on a lot of having an incredible space to make that food, right? And so we have been looking for community partners in the city to get access to commercial kitchen. And throughout this process, we were very fortunate that, you know, majority of the ladies that we work with reside in Vickery Meadow, and there's a particular mosque that actually where they worship at. And through these conversations that, you know, that are just super open, we found out that they had an assistance program that had funding that could possibly turn their kitchen at the mosque into a commercial kitchen where our ladies can access and actually utilize, you know, for the catering service. And instead of a traditional commercial kitchen that is located, you know, in Plano or further in Dallas, that might have cost over $25 to $30 per hour, this mosque decided to jump through the hoops and really kind of debunk a lot of those, you know, policies that were made in place to kind of create those barriers. And they jumped through the hoops for our community cooks and was able to certify this kitchen in their organization into a commercial kitchen that where our cooks can access for only $8 an hour. And so it's not a charity case. It's not, you know, I pity you and here I hereby give you this. It's, you know, the ladies are working really hard and they, you know, are able to access this and pay for it and feel really great about it. And so earlier you were talking about, you know, spaces like Life in Debellum and, you know, provide that kind of safe space. Like we'd love for more places like mosques that create these kind of commercial kitchens, you know, in multiple parts of the city where other immigrants and refugees who are interested in creating their own small food business and become, you know, food entrepreneurs have access to this type of setup where they can, you know, make living wages, become entrepreneurs, and take that next step to support, an inclusive economy. And so that really kind of, made us think about further what those, policy changes would look like, and as we ripple effect this further.
Great, thank you. In the video that we shared at the top of the session, Sarah, you talked about towards the end of that video the gift of time, right? To sort of illuminate or discover, the problems that maybe we don't see if we're functioning in a different horizon, right? Or timeline. And I think that's one of the things we've attempted to foster in this space, right? So can you just talk maybe a little bit about the program? That story you just shared was pretty incredible. That senora that came down from Carrollton, inquiring about this very thing. But can you maybe pick this up in terms of your ideas around what the opportunity investment is for your work?
Sure. So I guess I, like many other arts organizations, or not I, but the theater, we're used to 12, 18 months where you have a project and then you report and what happens when you do that is you have to construct a timeline and you have to construct ultimately a final product or project. And what I really was very invaluable of this experience was that it put the emphasis on process rather than a product, and it gave us the time to discover things. So I did honestly go into this thinking, okay, we'll do, theater for wellness, like kind of that methodology, because we were already doing some workshops like that where we use theater for kind of social well-being and kind of emotional healing and things. And when we brought in the early participants, actually they told us that's not what they were interested in. That what they were most excited about was learning English, but also doing it in a way that was fun for them and where they could use their Spanish to feel empowered to learn English, which was not the experience that they were having when they were trying to learn English in traditional ways. So I had no idea that that was what they really wanted, and we learned this through the process. But had we not gone through that process and had the ability to not have had a specific final product that we were working towards, we would not have discovered that. And we've had a lot of demand for this, and now what's happened is trying to figure out a way in which what's comfortable for our organization would be to scale it in a nice way where maybe we can do this outside of our space and possibly do it in other places, but we have to train, our own actors and professionals to work with the community. They have to be bilingual. So there's certain things that we need to do, but it was a really great eye-opener because I feel like in a strange way it taps back to the heart of the experience that my mom had when she came here. And it's sort of a strange cycle that's come back. So I see that our art organization, a cultural organization, we've always been aware of social responsibility, but sometimes that is so deeply embedded in your DNA. And I've realized like really one of the beautiful things about what we can do is around language and bilingualism and really empower people to become better citizens and also better workers through that. So that's something that we're really looking at, being able to use theater in that way.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to jump in on the opportunity investment question? Tisha?
Okay. When we started the little juice bar, the Recipe Oak Cliff, and it's, where we are is we're about a mile up from the Dallas Zoo. I guess everybody here is from Dallas because you're here right here. Yeah, right. We're about a mile up from the Dallas Zoo, and, that whole section right there, it's just, there's not a lot of necessarily businesses. There's a few, and there's definitely not a lot of food businesses, and there's definitely not any health food businesses and things like that. So a lot of times people who were maybe not familiar with the neighborhood would say, well, what demographic is going to come over here for juice and smoothies? What's going to come over here for that? And it was like, well, actually, I live over here and I want a juice. So if I want a juice, then I probably am at least representing a certain amount of other people who want a juice. And so so it's just so I'm thankful, that, we were able to get the connection with Lauren Embry, and that she was able to invest in us, and then so we were able to kind of launch and prove that idea, and then just for there to be the understanding that that's not the only concept that you wouldn't believe would work in certain areas. There's all kinds of like, oh, really? What? Yes, and there's all kinds of businesses that have been around forever who are doing like incredible cultural work and have just been there forever. And so, without much support from the city, from any of the some here and there change and things, but like that real support that helps them to actually really build it. So it's been through the people that these type of businesses and organizations are able to start and thrive. And so with the CultureBank work and getting to have a time to sit and talk with even more of our neighbors about like even more things that they would like in the neighborhood, that has been really, really great. And it would just be phenomenal to have more just direct investment into these type of concepts that transform, entire spaces.
I certainly look forward to our subsequent learning and explorations. I mean, having participated in this on sort of like also the national level, going to places like the Social Capital Conference or, CoCap, which happens in Oakland, and learning about cooperatively driven business models, cooperatively driven fund, structures. There's all this learning that I think is completely applicable to us here locally. And I think it's quite okay if the city missed the boat on including creative industries in their economic development piece to kind of pick up what Lex said. Then you just have to pick it up and do the work and continue to kind of chip away at that. And I know we're going to continue to do that together. Right? Yes, Sarah.
I was just going to add that I think that there's an educational component for businesses and philanthropy, and I had mentioned this before, that I think that in other industries, there's experimentation and long-term investment.
That's right.
Like in pharmaceuticals or
R&D.
science or all of that. That's normal, but for some reason, people don't do that with the arts. They don't say, okay, we're going to invest in this slightly longer term, more experimental, with the same level of trust that is given to biologists and scientists, with the idea that it's not even necessarily that they're going to come up with some new medicine, but that they might discover things along the way that filter out into other industries. And I really feel like it's educating the people who support the arts to understand that we are no different than scientists or or engineers, that we also require trust and time and investment without a quick product, because we live in the communities, we understand them, and we need that level of respect.
Right on. I think that's where we're going to end it, right there on a high note. Thank you, for real. So we got one more session. We're going to be transitioning. We're going to exit this way, y'all. And thank you again, each of you.
I hear the voices of my ancestors calling. I hear the voices of my ancestors calling. They say, listen, listen. Listen, listen. May the children all run free. And may the children all hot run free. And may our power go unbroken. And may our power go unbroken. And may the trees grow tall and the fire burn. It's through our service we all shall learn. We shall learn. It's through our service we all shall learn. Hey, I hear the voices of my ancestors calling. I hear the voices of my ancestors calling. They say, listen, 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 listen. May the children all run free. And may the children all run free. And may our power go unbroken. And may our power go unbroken. And may the trees grow tall. And our fire burn. It is through our service that we all shall learn. We shall learn. It's through our service we all shall learn. In indigenous culture, when a child is born into the world, the child comes out of the mother's womb, and the child lets out a scream from the other side of the universe. In indigenous culture, the people in the room answer the child back. They say, "Lu-lu-lu-lu-lu-lu-lu-lu-lu-lu-lu-lu-lu." And it is so that the child knows that they are not alone. That is the beginning of call and response. I say it, "Lu-lu-lu-lu-lu-lu-lu-lu." You say it. I say, "Li-li-li-li-li-li-li-li." You say. I say, "This is for the people. It's time to make some change. Time to move the needle. Yes, time to make some change today." Hey, you say time to make some change today. Say, "This is for the people. It's time to make some change. Time to move the needle." Say, "Time to make some change today. Some change to say, time to make some change today." Keep it going. Say, "Time to make some change today." Hey, hey, it's time to make some change today. I'm looking to mobilize a movement. Organize adults, elders, and youth, and trigger a campaign more real than the truth. Get your boots and suits and armor. I'm looking to partner with members of humanity who believe in the greening of our society, dollars circulating into business. I'm thinking some social entrepreneurships, this global societal commitment to reshape the minds of our children, to inspire them to invent inventions for the sustainment of our earthship. Life can be as good as we want to make it. I'm looking to mobilize a movement. I think we need some venture capital and construction on the corners, enlightened corner store owners, donors of the good cause. I'm looking for the leaders of the future who can stand before the forest and see habitats that inhabitants can inhabit at. I'm looking so forward to that. Watching the seed grow into a plant at the community garden where we all put elbow grease and palms in. I'm looking to mobilize a movement where the organized have objectives and capital improvements, regentrification's antithesis, urban design, design with you in mind. Can't y'all see it now? How it all goes down when two fish struck upon a pound, like two ants standing on the mound. We work for the colony. We think in both economics and ecology because we understand from the annuals of our Earth's modern history that nothing can be achieved without these two things, economics and ecology. Y'all follow me? This is real life, honeys. It ain't no tweet. So as we think about the next thing we gonna put up on IG, I suggest you go and get you one. Go and get you a seed. Because the way I see it, if we can mobilize a movement, we can be the change we want to see with just a few meetings, some capital, and some strategy. Y'all follow me. We can be the change we want to see with just a few meetings, some capital, and some strategy. I don't know. It's just a thought. Something that, I don't know, might spark an idea. I'm sorry, this may have been worse coming to worse. Clyde, I'm sorry for this art burst.